I got a new computer to play games on, and it's right here in my hands.
This is the Intel Compute Stick version 1. This is a low-end computer in something that looks like a thumb drive running an Intel Atom CPU. Right, let me rewind a bit and give you some context. The Intel Atom was a line of CPUs that Intel designed with the idea of creating a cheap, low-power consumption CPU for small and cheap computers for simple tasks, otherwise known as netbooks. I remember owning one of these in college. But the idea of cheap computers for simple tasks was completely killed by the ARM-based smartphone revolution, which basically did the same task and was more portable and power efficient. Sometime later, Intel, who had lost a lot of footing in the computer world to smartphones, decided to revive the Intel Atom brand, this time for tiny system-on-chips that combine the power and flexibility of the computer architecture with the portability and some of the power efficiency of mobile. And soon there was Android tablets running Intel Atoms, laptops, and even something like the GPT Win, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite gadgets ever. Yeah, the Intel Atom is the reason you can do a full Windows PC this size. Right, why am I talking to you about this? The Intel Compute Stick came out in a time where Intel was trying to showcase just how small they could make a computer using this technology, and maybe glimpse into a glorious future where we can all carry our full Windows Work computers in our back pocket. But this is the third version of that proposal, and there are kinks. It has an HDMI output, a micro USB for charging, a normal USB for peripherals, and a Wi-Fi/Bluetooth chip for connectivity. It is powered by a C3735F, which is older than the Atom and the GPT Win, and significantly weaker in the graphical department, especially when you consider just how quickly is the Atom line progressing in power. Okay, two bad things. First, the CPU is 64-bit, but the UEFI BIOS, the thing that runs the motherboard, is 32-bit, meaning that it can only use 32-bit Windows and run 32-bit games, even though the CPU is perfectly capable to do so. Second, the Wi-Fi Bluetooth chip is weird, and if you try using Wi-Fi and Bluetooth at the same time, both functions suffer and input lag becomes a huge issue. But this is the LowSpecGamer YouTube channel, so the real question is, what kind of performance does this computer get on games? With some help from tweaking, of course. Since this is now the lowest powered computer I have used so far in this channel, I decided to start with the PC gaming classic Half-Life 2. The game managed to pull between 40 and 60 FPS with the lowest settings on some of the biggest areas of the game, and I wonder what was the fastest I could get the game to perform. For this, I have created a separate video that should go out with this one, a more in-depth look at console commands that can reduce the graphics of this game to their absolute lowest, and using that configuration the game climbed all the way to 140 FPS on the same sequence, even though the combination of commands I used turned the game into a bit of a graphical glitch fest. Check the separate video for details of what each command does. Next, I wanted to try a new word source engine game, this time Portal 2. This test fared worse than I expected. With all the settings to the lowest and a resolution of 720, the game was initially managing around 18 FPS in some of the biggest areas, which is a bit too low, even for me. Some of the commands I use in Half-Life 2 remain usable in this game, and I have in the past talked quite a bit of the extreme graphical reduction possible in this game. Applying these commands and saying goodbye to all semblance of good-looking graphics climbs the game to a more stable 30 FPS. This is of course a bit of an extreme case, and just reducing the resolution and removing shadows and dynamic lighting already helped a lot in trying to play this game on this computer. Okay, next I decided to try with Dirt 3, a 2011 racing game that uses Codemasters Ego 2.0 engine. It comes with a very nifty benchmark functionality that allows me to easily test the game. With the lowest settings on 800 by 600, I saw the game pulling an average of 26 FPS and a minimum of 18.5. Thankfully, this game is very flexible, and you can change a lot of things in the configuration files to pretty much put object draw distance to almost zero and remove trees, shadows, and other details. You can check the full guide for that in the card in the corner. With those changes, the game climbed to an average of 33 and a minimum of 25, which some argue is quite playable. Right, let's try a popular low-end friendly game here, Minecraft. The indie, if we can still call it indie, superhit is notorious for being built in Java, which can sometimes lead to some counterintuitive performance. There's a separate version of this game called Minecraft Windows 10 Edition, which is based on the Pocket Edition but has significantly different performance, but I will be using the original Java-based moddable full release. With all the settings to the lowest, the game initially pulled around 30 FPS, but the game had some significant trouble keeping up with loading chunks of the world. What you are seeing is not due to buffering, this is actually how the game was doing. For this, I tried Optifine, a mod/tool that gives you better performance and opens up a ton of new graphical options to tweak and lower. After disabling everything I could and leaving smooth world loading on, the game climbed to 40 with no stuttering issues when the game loads, even if the view distance is very near. The game felt much better. Finally, I wanted to try something unexpected and wonder if I could get at least 20 FPS in Chivalry, an Unreal Engine 3 game. Now, this game allows for some really dramatic reductions in graphical quality using some Unreal Engine tweaks which I have talked about in the past on its dedicated video. I decided to combine that with the internal resolution scaler from my recent Rocket League video and a resolution of 800 by 600. As you can see, the result is around 25 FPS on a quick test, which is more than I expected from this game on this device. All in all, this is a very interesting piece of technology. Even with its problems, this is the kind of ultra-portable computing I would like to see more in the future. Furthermore, this now being the lowest end computer I own, this opens up a series of possibilities for future videos on games that already run too well in my test hardware. Also, at some point, Intel made an updated version of this hardware which promised an important boost in performance. Would you be interested in seeing how that version 2 handles games in comparison to this one? Let me know in comments so I can start saving up because it ain't cheap! And on that note, thank you to the people in Patreon who little by little donated enough to allow me to buy this device. Hopefully you liked this video, and I will see you on the next one.